Let's be brutally honest. There's nothing more haunting to a woman than realizing she lost a man who truly saw her. Not a man who begged for her attention, not a man who chased her approval, but a man who looked at her, knew her worth, and still chose to walk away when she stopped valuing his. Most women don't regret losing the man they used to control. They regret losing the man who had the strength to no longer be controlled. At first, she doesn't see it. When you pull back, she thinks you're bluffing. She thinks you'll come running like before, because that's what you always did, right? You apologized first, you explained yourself, you made excuses for her moods, her distance, her silence. You gave her the power to decide when you were worthy again, and for a while, that fed her ego. But here's what no one tells you. When a woman feels too secure in your pursuit, she stops valuing your presence. It's human nature. Certainty kills desire, and the moment you stop chasing her validation, something in her starts to panic. She begins to sense something shifting. The man she could once predict now feels like a mystery. The messages slow down, the tone changes, the emotional energy she used to feed on, it's gone. And that silence isn't just absence, it's power. It's a mirror. It forces her to face herself, and that's something she's spent years avoiding. Because when a man walks away with calmness, not bitterness, not manipulation, but quiet strength, it sends a shock wave through her psychology. She starts replaying memories, not the fights, not the problems, but the small things. The way you looked at her when she wasn't trying, the way you protected her, the way you believed in her when she didn't believe in herself. Those memories don't fade, they echo, especially when she compares them to what she has now. Men who flatter her but never see her, men who talk but don't listen, men who want her body but not her soul. That's when the regret begins, quietly, slowly, secretly. She doesn't show it at first. She'll still post pictures, still smile, still pretend she's living her best life. But every post, every forced laugh, every night alone, scrolling through her phone, is her trying to drown out that whisper in her chest, the whisper that says, "You lost a man who was real." And that realization cuts deeper than heartbreak, because now she knows you weren't replaceable. You weren't a phase. You were the one who gave her the chance to become a better woman, and she blew it. When women take a man for granted, they think they're teaching him a lesson. But what they never expect is for that lesson to turn into their own. You were her comfort zone, her safety net, her emotional anchor. But the second you stop showing up, she realizes how much of her emotional stability depended on you. That's when her pride starts to break. She might not call, she might not text, but she's watching. Every glow up you post, every step forward, every moment you start living again without her. It's a reminder of the mistake she made, and it stings, because while you're healing, she's remembering. While you're rebuilding, she's rethinking, and the more she pretends not to care, the deeper that regret burns. You see, men who evolve don't lose women. They reveal who was never meant to stay, and when that realization hits her, it's too late. The man she once ignored is now the man every woman wants. Now let me ask you something. Have you ever walked away from a woman who didn't value you, only for her to come back when you no longer cared? Tell me your story in the comments. And if this message hits something deep, like this video, subscribe, and share it with a friend who needs to hear the truth. There's a strange silence that follows when a man truly walks away. It's not loud or dramatic, it's almost unsettling. It's the kind of silence that exposes truth, because for the first time, she can't read you anymore. The man who once reacted, explained, argued, defended, is suddenly at peace. And peace, to a woman who took you for granted, feels like rejection. At first, she'll tell herself she doesn't care. She'll even convince her friends that she's fine, that losing you was for the best. But late at night, when the noise fades and her phone stops lighting up, she feels something she can't admit: emptiness. Not because you were perfect, not because you always did everything right, but because she knows she underestimated your absence. She thought you were the kind of man who would always wait, always forgive, always come back. And when you didn't, it shattered her illusion of control. This is where female psychology becomes brutally honest. A woman doesn't miss a man when he's gone. She misses him when she realizes he's not coming back. That's when the mind replays everything: the ignored texts, the moments she rolled her eyes when you opened up, the times she acted bored while you were trying to connect. Each one comes back like a ghost. Regret is cruel that way. It doesn't hit all at once. It drips slowly, like water torture. And here's what most men never understand. Women regret in silence. She won't tell you she misses you. She'll test you. A random text, a subtle story, a small breadcrumb to see if the door's still open. But what she's really asking is this: have you moved on, or are you still under my spell? The irony is that by the time she asks, you've already outgrown the need to answer. You've seen too much. You've felt the freedom that comes with finally choosing yourself. That's when she feels it, that deep, gnawing ache that no one sees. It's not just regret, it's envy. Envy of your peace, your focus, your discipline. She used to be the center of your attention, and now she's just a chapter you've learned from. That's when she begins comparing every new man to you. His words don't feel as sincere. His eyes don't hold the same strength. His presence doesn't make her feel grounded. And that contrast eats at her, because no matter what she does, she can't recreate what she destroyed. She'll remember your patience, your loyalty, the small ways you showed you cared. Things she once called boring now feel like stability. And that's when the regret transforms into something darker: self-blame. She'll start asking herself, why did I push away the one man who actually loved me right? And she'll never find the answer that brings peace, because deep down, she knows it was pride. See, most women don't lose good men because they didn't love them. They lose them because they assumed they'd always be there. And when you, the man she thought was safe, finally choose to value yourself more than her validation, that's the moment she realizes what she's lost. It's not just you, it's the version of herself that she could have been with you. The calm, the connection, the partnership. She'll never admit it, but that loss lingers for years. So don't underestimate the power of silence. It's not weakness, it's transformation. When you stop chasing what's slipping away, you give yourself the space to attract what's meant for you. That's what she never saw coming. You didn't just move on, you leveled up. You became the man she always hoped you'd be, just not for her. Now tell me this, have you ever noticed how women suddenly reach out the moment you stop caring? Comment your story below. And if this spoke to your truth, hit that like button, subscribe, and share this with a brother who's finally learning his worth. There comes a moment she can't explain, a quiet shift where the regret becomes obsession. It's not about love anymore. It's about loss of control. The man she thought would always orbit her is now moving freely, confidently, without needing her validation. That realization, it shakes her core, because in her mind, she was the prize. But suddenly, she's the one chasing shadows. She starts to wonder, who is he talking to now? Who's making him smile like that? Who's getting the version of him I never appreciated? These thoughts don't fade, they multiply. Every post you make, every new hobby, every ounce of improvement, it's a reminder that she's been replaced not by another woman, but by your peace. And peace is something she can't compete with. You see, most women don't realize how deeply they've underestimated a man until he stops explaining himself. That silence that once frustrated her now feels like distance she can't bridge. She'll start trying small things to re-enter your world. A like on a post, a memory in your messages, maybe even a casual, I saw this and thought of you. But what she's really saying is, I miss being part of your life. Yet she'll never say it directly because her pride won't allow it. So she tests, she waits, and with every unanswered message, she sinks deeper into that regret. But here's where the real psychology hits. When a man evolves after heartbreak, it's not just his lifestyle that changes, it's his energy. You start carrying yourself differently. You move slower, speak with purpose, and stop over-explaining. You become a presence instead of a pursuer. And that energy, it draws people in, not because you're trying, but because you finally stopped needing. Women can sense that. It's primal. The confidence of a man who's found peace without validation, it's magnetic, and she can't look away. The man who once begged for her attention is now the man every woman notices. That contrast breaks her, Because while you were rebuilding, she was replaying. While you were healing, she was hoping. And by the time she realizes what she's lost, you've already closed that chapter. That's when the regret becomes obsession. She starts comparing. Every man after you feels temporary. Conversations feel shallow. Intimacy feels forced. Because no matter how hard she tries, no one can fill the emotional depth you once brought. And that's the consequence of taking a good man for granted. You can replace attention, but you can't replace connection. She might even try to win you back. A sudden apology, a message out of nowhere. I've been thinking about you. But deep down, she's not reaching for love. She's reaching for closure. She wants to know she could still have you if she tried. But the irony is, by the time she tries, you've outgrown the version of yourself that needed her. You've built discipline, direction, purpose. You've filled the void she left with something far more powerful, self-respect. And that's when her heart truly breaks, because now she's seeing the version of you she always wanted, but it's no longer hers to have. She's watching from the outside, realizing that the man she once overlooked is now the man every woman is drawn to. That's not karma, it's consequence. Remember this, women don't regret losing men who begged to stay. They regret losing men who were strong enough to walk away with grace. The moment you stopped chasing her, you became unforgettable. And that's the irony of growth. It always comes when you stop seeking validation and start embodying value. So tell me, has a woman ever tried to come back once you finally found peace without her? Drop your answer in the comments, and if this spoke to your soul, hit like, subscribe, and share this with someone who's finally realizing their worth. There's a point where regret turns into reflection. It's no longer about getting you back. It's about understanding what she lost. Because somewhere between her silence and your growth, she starts to see things clearly. She remembers the small details she once ignored. The way you looked at her like she was more than her image. The way you made her feel safe, not because of what you said, but because of who you were. And in that realization, she meets the truth. She didn't lose a man. She lost her mirror, the one person who reflected her best and worst back at her without judgment. At first, it's just nostalgia. She tells herself she misses how things used to be. But what she's really missing is the version of herself that existed when she was with you. The version that felt seen, valued, grounded. Because with you, she didn't have to perform. You didn't fall for the mask. You loved the woman beneath it. And that's rare. You can't replace that with flattery or shallow connections. She starts to feel that difference every time she tries to connect with someone new. The conversations feel empty, the laughs feel forced. The spark fades quickly because no one challenges her the way you did. You weren't afraid to call her out. You weren't afraid to hold her accountable. And now, surrounded by men who only say what she wants to hear, she realizes how rare it was to have someone who said what she needed to hear. This is the part most men never see. Behind her pride, behind the social media posts, behind the smile, there's a quiet guilt. She replays the moments she took your patience for weakness, your care for control, your love for simplicity. And that guilt eats away at her, because she knows deep down she had a good man and she broke him. But here's where your power truly shows. You didn't let her break you permanently. You took that pain and turned it into fuel. You stopped being reactive and became reflective. You learned, you rebuilt, you grew. And that growth is what makes her reflect even deeper. She starts wondering what kind of man could forgive, evolve, and rise so gracefully. She starts to admire the same qualities she once took for granted. That's when the regret hits like a wave, because she finally understands what kind of man you truly were. A protector, a provider, a man of depth in a world full of distraction. You were her balance, and when she pushed you away, she pushed away the part of herself that could have evolved with you. That's the cruel beauty of consequence. It teaches through loss what wisdom couldn't teach through love. Now she starts seeing your worth, not through memory, but through contrast. Every new man exposes what she once had. Every shallow conversation highlights your emotional depth. Every fleeting connection reminds her of the security she destroyed, and that reflection changes her. She becomes quieter, more thoughtful, even guarded, because now she knows when a man of real value leaves, he doesn't just leave a void, he leaves a standard. And that standard will follow her everywhere she goes. It will echo in every interaction, every date, every glance, because no matter how many faces she meets, none of them carry the energy of the man who chose self-respect over attachment. You see, the greatest revenge isn't moving on. It's becoming everything she didn't believe you could be. That's the part she'll never forget. Because deep down, she'll always know. You didn't change to impress her. You changed because she taught you what never to settle for again. So let me ask you, has a woman ever made you level up without even realizing it? Share your experience in the comments, like this video, subscribe, and send this to a man who's rebuilding his power after heartbreak. Eventually, her regret stops being loud. It stops being posts, calls, or attempts to reconnect. It becomes quiet, almost sacred, because now she knows there's nothing left to fix. The man she once took for granted no longer exists in the way she remembers. You've evolved. You've hardened in the right places and softened in the right ones. You've learned to protect your peace like it's your oxygen. And that's when it hits her. She didn't just lose you, she lost access to the man you became. There's something haunting about that realization. She'll scroll past your name one night, maybe months or even years later, and she'll feel that ache again. Not because she wants to rekindle anything, but because she knows she can't. She had the chance to love you when you were still open, still hopeful, still trying. But now you've become something different, still kind but selective, still caring but guarded, still open, but only to those who earn it. That's what true healing does. It doesn't close your heart, it sharpens your discernment. And that transformation becomes her mirror. She starts to see how her patterns cost her something irreplaceable. Because you weren't perfect, but you were real. You were consistent in a world full of confusion. You were patient in moments of chaos. And most of all, you loved her without needing to control her. But she mistook that freedom for weakness. She thought your forgiveness was endless. And now she realizes that the version of you who tolerated her indifference no longer exists. That's when she finally feels the kind of regret that doesn't fade. It's not dramatic, it's quiet. It creeps in when she least expects it, when she hears your favorite song, when she passes a place you once went together, when she sees a man treat another woman the way you once treated her. That's when she whispers to herself, he was the one who really cared, and no matter how much time passes, that truth will always sting. But here's the beauty in all of this. It's not about her anymore. It's about what you've become. The man who once needed validation now finds strength in solitude. The man who once doubted his worth now walks with purpose. The man who once gave too much now knows that real love doesn't require losing yourself. That's your evolution. That's your victory. And maybe, deep down, that's what she was meant to teach you. Because sometimes the person who breaks your heart is the same person who awakens your power. The pain was never punishment. It was preparation. It forced you to face yourself, rebuild, and become a man that commands respect, not through words, but through presence. And that presence is what women notice most. Now, you carry a different kind of silence. Not the silence of defeat, but the silence of a man who knows his value. You no longer chase love, you attract it. You no longer seek attention, you command it. And you no longer need validation, because you've already proven yourself to the one person who truly matters, you. And while she may still think about you, you've already moved beyond her memory. Because the truth is, some women are meant to awaken the man in you by walking away from the boy you once were. And when that happens, regret isn't your burden, it's theirs. So I'll ask you one final question. If she called you tonight, not to apologize, but just to hear your voice one last time, would you answer? Tell me your truth in the comments. And if this message hit your heart, like this video, subscribe for more, and share it with a man who needs to remember what real self-respect feels like.